it's a. Can you swear on here?
Yeah. I think that this is going to inform some of the questions and some of in general where this podcast goes, because we're going to get there's some hard questions that we're going to ask.
We have been one of the fastest growing private companies in the country, period. We were just named the 8th fastest growing private company in the state of Georgia.
Everything that he just described is largely not known by 90% of our consumers.
Right.
That's a distinctly American entrepreneurship story for a young man who has built something that everybody should be proud of, and I'm certainly damn proud to work here.
All right.
How excited are you to be
Dude,
here?
I'm so excited.
I was so disappointed we walked in, there wasn't a jersey sitting here for you.
I know. Ultraview, Brandon McDonald. Come on, guys.
We can make that happen.
I'd been threatening him for a while. We're going to go down there, but you can't do it until you actually have a jersey that says Ultraview with your name on the back when you walk in.
The joke has been that I have Ultraview tattooed under my boobs.
He loves your stuff.
You know what I've always wanted to actually do for you is send you a nice box of cigars.
Yeah, you get right at him there.
Because of that one video you did where you broke out the cigar.
Yeah.
That was a vibe.
Yeah. I mean, so this is what the thing is. I appreciate what you guys do in general with the packaging and all that. And so I was like, I need to make a nice video to go with the nice packaging. But yeah, if you sent me cigars, that would certainly go somewhere for me.
Yeah, 100% nicest packaging in the industry, period. Not even close, period.
Obviously.
I would love to know, and it can be off camera, how much you spend on that.
It's not as much as people think.
Really?
And it's part of our whole strategy down to how we develop a product, why we develop it. We're very SKU focused, very limited SKU, high volume. And when you operate how we operate, it's not as significant as most people think.
Okay, keep going. We're in. Keep going.
We're already in. All right, so
we're going.
Because the thing is if you're a company that has 100 million different SKUs and 100 million different options, and you're only doing maybe a dozen of each here or there, and they have different packaging, all that, it's very difficult to manage and very expensive because your volumes are low and it's all kind of low volume custom runs and all that. And even when we look at our packaging, it's very holistic. So it's very similar materials, finishes, and all that. And so we are able to get a very advantageous pricing because we do such high volume of the same thing.
Yeah.
And so releases are a great example. We have hinge, button, several different variants of each, aluminum, stainless, hinge to button. And they all come in the same box.
Yep.
And so it says Ultraview releases.
So it's not
specific.
Right.
Yeah.
That
So you
makes
get away
sense.
with making really high grade, high quality packaging because it's the same package over and over.
And our supply chain team works their butt off because that's the first thing that's got to go out the door because we have to buy. It's a. Can you swear on here?
Yeah.
It's a pain in the ass.
100%.
It's a pain in the ass.
Like he gets mad because he beeps it out. But
I have to go through and edit it, so it is a little bit of a
I have
pain.
a level of profanity that comes out of me
for sure.
naturally.
I'm actually surprised we're not drinking 40s.
Yeah, well,
That's what we should be doing.
we got to drive a ways back when
It's
we're
the
done
middle
here.
of the day. We probably shouldn't. All right.
But no, it's a huge pain in the butt, but we do it because we care a lot about what we do here, and we know that matters, and we care a lot about every detail. A lot of details people don't even notice we care a lot about. And we go the extra mile and plan and go through all that extra work exactly for the exact reason why you felt it was appropriate to break a cigar out to unbox our site. That is why we do it.
Yeah. To do a fancy thing while looking at a fancy product.
It was quite appropriate, I will say.
Yeah. No, that's how it felt. So, okay. So I'm thinking about common complaints or whatever that we would hear from people. And so what you're saying is there's no point in us packaging this in a less nice way because it's not actually going to save that much money. I would save some money, but it's not going to be
Some
a
money.
ton.
I mean, but it wouldn't.
You think it's not worth it though?
No, it's also in my opinion, I think it's disrespectful to the product and you, the customer, to get something in a Maraca clamshell box where it's half disassembled and you got to figure out how to put it together and the screws are out. A lot of stuff comes that way, or even just a blister pack. It's not honoring the product to how it should be. Because we spent a lot of time and thought on this thing. We care a lot about it. We're going to put it in something that shows that. Also, you as a customer, we know you care about it just as much as we do. And so it's, if that doesn't resonate with you, then maybe this is not for you. But we care a lot about it, and we've had that opinion from the very beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So speaking of the very beginning, let's go back.
Hold on, before you do that, I want to make one comment on the packaging because it is glorious and it is beautiful, and I'm sure there's.
I'm going to interrupt you on this.
Go for it.
And every time you watch an unboxing video on YouTube, whether it has 15 views or 15,000 views, they're opening the box and they go, "Wow, this is some great packaging. Whoa!" And then they go, "But nobody cares about the packaging." And then they take the product out. But you know what the first thing they talked about was the packaging. You know what the
100%.
first thing we're talking about here is the packaging.
It's all part of the brand experience.
Yeah,
Got it.
brand experience.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to say it.
I will state I have one gripe, and I'm sure you can't do it this way because it would take away from how it looks as a group. But there's nothing identifying on the packaging without flipping it over to know what it is.
Yeah.
And as a shop, that sucks.
We may
But
have
outside of
fixed
that, I get it. But if you're trying to keep that clean aesthetic on everything, you can't slap a sticker on here that looks different from one to the next.
I think we may. Did we
There
fix
are
that?
some solves coming for
Oh, God.
shop owners.
That's
yeah.
a volume thing.
Digging through
right?
piles of boxes looking for the
As
one that
we,
actually is the right thing.
As we get more volume, we're able to do more.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
we're-
My only complaint.
I've
about that.
injected myself into packaging design, quite honestly, probably more than I should,
Gotcha.
for the shelf space aesthetic and shoppability of a customer that is on their own, not being helped on a pegboard, all the way to like, how does it function, store, and stack behind the shelf for the shop owner so that everything is legible and easily found. And then when you present it to a customer, you get that same wow
Yeah.
packaging experience. It should be like iterative and stack on each other.
Here's a different thought for you on that, though. Like, if almost everybody's stuff's hangable, right? But for the most part, yours isn't. So you actually have a separate section in my store that's all shelving and stacked, and all your like items are together. Whereas traditionally, you like put releases with releases, sites with sites, rests with rests. If you got into that world, and that doesn't happen, but I think it makes it kind of highlighted a little bit more. So it's not a horrible thing by any means.
Right.
I just wish I didn't have to go through 30 boxes
Yeah.
to find the one that's the 3-pin side pin right-handed version. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, but well, all right. We can. There's more
You're
that we
not
can go
looking
into
through
on
that.
this. No, what I want to do is I want to go back to the beginning though of like Kolby. I want you to tell people who you are and how you kind of started this entire thing, because I think that this is going to inform some of the questions and some of in general where this podcast goes, because we're going to get like there's some hard questions that we're going to ask. And I want to hear the journey of you and where you came from, so that we can maybe get a little bit of insight into like actually how to form some of those questions for you.
Yeah. So I'm the founder CEO of the company. I'm curious, like, do you guys have any? I wanted to ask you, like, what are your impressions of me and like how I got here? Like,
We'll tell you after you tell us where you
okay.
came from.
okay, sure. John's just ping pong that question back and forth. So
Yeah.
I'm the founder and CEO of the company. I'm currently 28 years old. I started the business in college here in Atlanta at Georgia Tech. And how much detail do you want me to get in here?
Dude, go for it. 15
for it?
minutes if you want.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
We'll dive in. So
Yeah.
I'm from Vermont originally, like a super, super small town, middle of nowhere.
Bernie Sanders land.
Now,
Not,
I was
We
just
don't-
listening to his
not
pod with
approved
Rogan.
by the brand team.
Keep going. Keep going.
but like, super small town, maybe there's 2 stoplights, not even lights, stop signs in my town, right? And I was, I don't know, 8, 9 years old, bored kid on summer vacation. I loved the Survivor Man shows for some reason, where they'd go out and survive in the woods.
Yeah.
And he made a little bow and shot a frog with it and ate the frog. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. I want to go do that. So I just occupying my time, bored on summer vacation in the middle of nowhere, Vermont, went out back and started making little bows out of saplings and flinging arrows just to see how far I could shoot an arrow. And that year for Christmas, my parents bought me like the dinkiest of all dinkiest archery sets you could possibly buy, fiberglass arrows, the whole 9. And like, I never put that thing down ever. And then my birthday comes along, like, wow, he's still playing with that archery set. We got him for Christmas. So they took me down to the local pro shop, Pelkey's Archery in Vermont. And, the owner there, I mean, everybody there was fantastic. And they got me set up with a Parker. Is Parker
Yeah,
even
Parker's
still
not
a
around
thing?
anymore.
Like a Parker hunting bow, site, and they had this program called JOAD, Junior Olympic Archery Development.
Yep.
And so I got plugged into lessons, like how to shoot this thing. And I just never, ever put it down. And through that program, JOAD, they had competitions. And I kind of started, getting deeper and deeper down that rabbit hole. And I remember I did my first local competition at that shop and got like second or first place in my division. And I'm like, whoa, this is awesome.
I'm incredible.
I know,
Yeah.
I'm incredible. Awesome. Yeah. And, that really like it gave me a passion to really pour myself into. And it just gave me something to I obsess over. And I'm a pretty obsessive person. Craig could probably attest to that.
Can confirm.
And I went all in. And so fast forward a little bit, and I think I'm now like 11. And, I want better equipment. I want to travel to more shoots. I'm competing kind of regionally now. And my parents like, well, you want to go do this, maybe we got to get you a job so you can go get your archery equipment and figure out how to do
At
this.
11?
So at 11.
Okay.
So, my parents, relatively humble beginnings. Like my dad was a carpenter, just building one-off house for general contractors in the area. And my mom worked as, like an office assistant, secretary, and she's worked up her career really quite high now, but, it didn't come from much. She's like, well, if you're into this, work for what you want. And so I got a job at the local store for $6.50 an hour plus tips, but nobody tips the bottle boy. So in Vermont, you can return bottles for 5 cents a bottle. So I would count the grossest bottles and then sort them. It was a nasty job. And so that was my first job to buy my own archery equipment. And then I just kept buying, the latest and greatest target bow and kept upgrading and competed regionally, nationally. And then I ended up, my dream for the longest time was to make the junior USA archery team.
Yeah.
And so I worked, not only did I have to buy my equipment, I had to afford to go to the damn shoot.
Travel, sure.
And
Which is a
so
lot.
my parents were working. I couldn't rent a car because I was like, I don't know, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And so I had to pay for me and my grandma because she could rent a car and hotel. And so I had to fund that whole thing through working. I worked for my dad some in the summer. I worked at the store. I did fundraisers. I made these paracord bracelets and sold them. So it really instilled an entrepreneurial spirit into me.
Clearly.
And so I ended up making the junior USA archery team for many consecutive years in a row. And that's actually where I first met Chris B. And that's where we really, we traveled together, competed together. That's where we met. And he kind of sneaks his way back into our story a little later. But, that is the rabbit hole that got me into archery. And so I started competing at the highest level, traveling across the world. That's where I met George Riles. He became a huge life mentor, archery mentor. That's when I started coming down here in Atlanta because George's shop is right down the road. So I would spend the summers down here with George. I would fly in and, it would be because in the summertime, it's like every other weekend or sometimes back to back, there's a big shoot. And he would take all of his, Hornets to each shoot and travel, and we'd split the cost of an Airbnb and do the whole thing. So I was down here all the time, and George was talking to me like, well, what do you want to do when you get older? The question everybody always asks. Sure. And, my parents always said, go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a good job. And I was going to go do that. I cared a lot about school because of that. And so George was just talking, and he's like, well, it sounds like you'd be into materials science. And I was going to become an engineer.
But you're in early high school at this point in time.
This is
when George
late stage high school.
Okay.
This is actually the
Decision-making time.
Yeah, this is actually a little bit after decision-making time because I went to University of Vermont for my first several semesters as an undeclared engineer. Not really knowing what I was doing. Nobody in my family really went to college.
Yeah, but you're taking care of all the basic classes first, which is technically what you probably should be
They're all
doing
same
anyway. So,
yeah.
And so halfway through my first semester of college, I'm talking to George about this, and he's like, Georgia Tech has a great material science program. You could be down here, get your engineering, get your archery.
George just wanted you close.
Yeah.
Come on down, buddy.
And so I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds awesome. So long story short, I worked really hard to transfer to Georgia Tech, which it's really difficult to do that. Got into material science engineering, and I mean, within not even months, within weeks, completely flourished on campus. They have an unbelievable amount of resources for their undergraduate students. Maker spaces left and right where you can 3D print, CNC machine, laser cut, like printed circuit board. Like if you can dream, like there are so many smart nerds on campus. Like if you could dream of something, like you can make it on campus. And so that really intertwined my passions. And I am a super nerd. Like I am nerdiest of all nerds.
We can tell.
Yeah.
We can feel it.
Yeah. It will probably get worse. And so like it was really a great place for me to like mix all of my passions of engineering, just making things, archery, shooting better, and then, you know, my entrepreneurialism kind of got mixed in there too, because I just started making my own archery equipment on campus.
Right. Once you had access to the ability to manufacture something, it's press
And
play.
so I don't even know what the first thing was. I think it was actually a peep. I think this was right when Hamsky came out with their big fancy peep way back in the day. I'm like, damn, that thing's like cool, but like I'm a broke ass college kid. I can't afford that.
It's like $130.
Yeah, and so like I just started printing my own peeps actually. And then it just kept snowballing, and I spent so much time in the maker spaces where you have to log in and queue up to get a printer. I would study in there and wait 3-4 hours sometimes just to get on a printer to print my stuff. And I was spending so much time there. I'm like, what if I just got my own printer? And then so for my birthday or something that year, I justified like buying my first 3D printer because I'm like, I'm going to buy this $600 3D printer and I'm going to sell enough gadgets off of this printer just to pay for the printer.
Yeah.
So I'm like a net even.
Yeah.
And so that was my, there was no deeper than that. And so I started just like bought the printer and then just started printing things. And George, we had this crazy idea to make this ultraviolet light kit because I was shooting a lot of 3D at the time. I was down here in the Southeast. Those are everywhere. And so the first ever like product I made that wasn't just like a 3D printed grip,
Right.
was the Ultraview light kit. I actually have one right here.
Oh yeah, let's see this. I'll get B-roll of all this stuff
look
and
at
put it
that
in the video. Look at that packaging. Quality UV packaging.
Was it painful to put it in that box originally?
There was no thought. No, it was not painful. Pure ignorance and passion right there.
I mean, you could see all the the 3D
Yeah.
printing lines and all that stuff out of.
So I would literally buy, it was like a $15 UV pen light from Amazon. I would deconstruct it to get just that purple head. I would solder on the wires, buy a battery pack, make that enclosure, and then solder it all together. And funny enough, like that's where the name Ultraview came from, was this product.
Yeah.
and
Ultraview light kit.
the purple.
And the color purple came from that head.
So was the purple something you chose, or was it just the thing that came with the pen?
Was it just purple?
Well, the purple was the purple came from ultraviolet light.
Okay.
And the point that it just helped you.
Ultraviolet light's purple.
The name of that was the Ultraview light kit. Ultraviolet light and
Yep.
view helps you see better.
Yeah.
And so like that was kind of the twist there.
And
so
but you're how old at the time when you
I'm
made
like
this thing?
a
19?
sophomore, junior in college.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 19, 20.
19, 20.
Yeah. Yeah. And so those were $100.
What scope did that fit on
We
originally? Or you just made them
originally, I
for
think
all
it was like
kinds?
an AV. It was like an Excel scope, but then I made them for everybody. And if I didn't have one like made, the guys would send me their scopes.
You can just make it for
I
it.
would like make them for it and then save that and then offer that as like an option.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, look.
What did you originally sell that for?
It was $100,
Yeah.
and like this is the
Wow, look at
technical
that.
specifications.
Yeah.
And I think
at
even at
you.
the time, I included a business card with my personal phone number on it.
Blur that out.
And this is still true today. I may read this.
Yeah.
I put this in every box. Thank you so much for buying an Ultraview light kit. As I'm sure you know, the startup business is owned and operated by Kolby Hanley, with all profits helping him complete his undergraduate studies at Georgia Tech. For example, food, housing, tuition, etc. As this product is still very new, Ultraview asks for your patience as well as your feedback. Feedback will help the product move in the right direction while also helping to catch early issues that may arise. The mounting bracket and parts of the battery box are 3D printed in-house, so on-the-fly adjustments can be made. Please email or text me. And then just like some notes on some things that I had learned. I'm currently working with some fiber optic companies to make fiber that works a little better. And then I put my email, my personal phone number, and I was selling these on Etsy at the time. Oh, Etsy. That was the only place I knew where to sell things.
Why not?
No, it makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
So that's where we started. And
I love
think,
the justification for profit. You're like, no, listen, I need to make money because I'm trying to pay for college. And people are like, it's cool. Just give me the thing, man. It's fine.
But no, like this was the first thing. And then, I mean, from this, so when we launched this, we went live on Facebook on George's, when Facebook Live was like a big thing.
Sure.
And I mean, it kind of blew up. We sold like 35 like this. And I had like enough parts to make 5. And so,
Is this what you won the award for?
no, that was for this guy.
Okay.
We
All right.
can
Well,
get into that a little
we
bit.
don't have to
Yeah.
jump into it. Like keep
so-
going in this because this is.
And so,
This is cool.
literally though, from day one, it was design a cool product that people want that solves problems, offer it for sale, and it's been like massive back order, figure out how to solve this and deliver on your promises.
Right.
And, you know, we work very, very hard on delivering on our promises. And every time we've launched a product, whether it was, you know, second generations of our scope housing, hinge 1, hinge 2, original UV button, slider 1, it was, this is this awesome thing we've made that we think is really cool. We hope you want one. And then a whole bunch of people dive in and it's like, oh shit, we gotta deliver on this now,
Gotta
boys.
figure out
Let's
how
go.
to- yeah.
And so like that has funded the entire growth of the business from a 3D printed. I had these stacked up in my dorm room. So I had these stacked up in my college dorm room. This was behind my door. So I had printers running
Oh wow.
and a shelving unit 24/7. They'd wake me up in the middle of the night like failing. It's like, "Wah." And then we moved into George's basement. So like this was our first operation outside of a college dorm room. You can kind of see it's a very beautiful basement. And there's the printers.
Beautiful basement, George.
There you go.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And so
All I keep thinking is I wish those were Bitcoin miners instead of 3D printers.
We'll be having a different conversation.
Yeah. In a different building, in a different room, in the Caymans.
I know.
Yeah. But all right, keep going. Sorry.
yeah, and so that, you know, then I just became that weird kid that was like running these 3D printers all the time. And I couldn't wait. You know, most college kids on Friday night, we know what most college kids are doing on Friday night. Friday night, I couldn't wait to use all of my free printing for the week to print out all of my orders and packing slips, cut them all up, make my cardboard boxes, and pack and ship orders all weekend long from Friday to Sunday. And then on Monday, take these massive bags to the post office on campus. And the post office ladies love me because like twice a week, I drop off hundreds of little boxes and like, what are you doing? And so to this day, I tell people that are looking for early startups on college campuses, I said, go to the post office and ask the ladies at the post office who are the weird kids that keep bringing a whole bunch of stuff here and shipping stuff out.
That's a
It's like,
good tip right
those
there.
are the kids that are onto something.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
that was like the start. And then like, you know, what won the competition, like one step down was like, well, what's our next thing? Like, how do we make this better? We're like, why is there even a light kit at all? Why is this just not homogeneously in the scope? And so that was the idea, was to integrate the light into the scope housing itself. We called this, I don't know why we deviated from the name, the Starlight Scope. 100% 3D printed. God, this thing's beautiful. And so there's this competition on campus called Inventure Prize. It's at Georgia Tech. It started at Tech. It's at all ACC schools now. And it's actually the nation's largest undergraduate invention competition. And all of my friends encouraged me to enter in with like my weird side hustle 3D printing thing.
Right.
And so I entered in with this scope housing and ended up like in the finals on stage in front of like a live audience with judges, broadcasted, like, and so it was a whole deal. And like I ended up winning the competition that night with Starlight. And you can see like that's Chris, and Chris was in town.
Look at that guy.
So
His hair's a little shorter,
Yeah,
a little more
so-
managed.
Chris came in, and then I ended up winning that night. And when you win the competition, you get $20,000 in no strings attached seed money, a free U.S. patent filing for your invention, and acceptance into Georgia Tech's Startup Accelerator program. But really what it did for me was validation that what I was doing was worth pursuing full time.
Sure.
Because it was still a side hustle. It was still oh, hey, I've been blessed to have my 3D printer pay more than just itself off. Like, let's use this to pay for college too. But I'm still going to go get my big boy engineering job, which my dream job, by the way, was working on the internal fan blades of commercial jet engines, because I'm a super nerd. And I had that whole career path like perfectly lined up at the exact company that I wanted to work for, doing the exact thing. And I was looking at that, and then this whole Ultraview thing that just kind of spun up at the same time, and I kind of had to make a decision.
Oh.
And the Inventure Prize, really what it did for me is it gave me the validation that what I was doing was worth pursuing, and it wasn't just, this weird side hustle that was making me a little bit of money to get by.
Sure. You have the only college experience story that's like a massive success that I've ever heard of. So congratulations. That's incredible. No, it's just, I don't know what the thing is. Like, that there's not 100 people that I meet out of 200 that have that exact same story. Like, where college was literally like the thing that ramped them into their future. So that's freaking cool that that's what happened with you.
George asked me, for some reason this sticks with me. He asked me, because we actually just talked about it, setting this up. George lived in Walla Walla.
Yeah.
He would tell me the story all the time. He would go, he picked up his life. This was before the internet was a thing, and moved across the country. His parents dropped him off and then left.
Yeah.
And he remembers how he felt when his dad was driving away. And so George asked me, he said, how did you feel like when you dropped your parents off, like at the airport, and you were just like, here? I said, I got goosebumps and I felt an unlimited amount of opportunity.
Wow,
because
that's cool.
I had one of the best engineering schools in the world with right next to the world's largest airport. I could get anywhere on a direct flight. I could compete as much as I wanted to. I could shoot as much as I wanted to. And so I just really went all in. Yeah.
That's an inspiring freaking
really
story,
cool,
dude.
man.
That's really cool.
And so I guess that's like the most interesting, unique part. This did really well. We took them out in pre-order. Yeah, we took them out in pre-orders. And I had to ship the damn thing. It was just tough. And then, it's like we're onto something here.
Well, how long did it take you to print one of those from like start to finish?
Maybe like 2 hours.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So one printer's capacity, 24 hours a day, you can make 12 of them.
Yeah, we had I think at our peak, we had maybe 18 printers running 24/7. Yeah. And so it just became what's the next thing we can do? And so,
oopsie.
With resources on hand, grips, release accessories, thumb knobs, third finger pieces, like bow grips, Matthews grips, Hoyt grips, those were easy to print, and it was a useful product. A 3D printed grip is, it's a thing that you can 3D print, and that's kind of okay.
Right.
You're not going to 3D print, maybe a sight rail.
Yeah.
That's
well,
probably
there's
not
a
great
finish.
part.
There's a finish to the 3D printing, and maybe it's gotten better. But you can tell that it's like wire strands that are melted together.
Yeah.
But
And
you're
so-
exactly right. For a scope housing, it's this is great.
Yeah, so we just kept bootstrapping and bootstrapping and bootstrapping with what can we print that's useful and good, and we can sell that and then grow. And then we finally got to a point where it's okay, what are we actually doing here?
Well, let me pause you for a second. Were your thoughts restricted to being able to simply be able to 3D print something? You hadn't think beyond that yet.
That's actually that's where we're going.
Okay.
Yeah. So then we're what are we actually doing here?
Right.
And then it's well, we want to make really great equipment. And me, I say we all the time.
That's what I was wondering about. Is who is we in those early
we.
days? Because obviously we now is a building full of people, but who was we early on?
So very early on, George was involved, Chris was involved, and then Bruce. Zach is his first name. We call him Bruce. It's actually his middle name. I feel bad if I'm leaving anybody out, but those were the core guys in the basement, right? And so we're what are we actually doing here?
Bruce is still our head of engineering.
Yeah, we can meet him later. Yeah.
Okay.
And we're well, we were all archery freaks. Bruce also, he's a world champion. He's won just as much as I have out there on the world circuit, right? And we're like, well, we care a lot about the sport. We care a lot about what we do. We care a lot about products. We're all product guys. We're like, we're not like pumped with what we're using, what we're getting, you know, our frustrations in the industry, lead times, you can't get it here, it comes out, you like what? And so we're like, we really want to offer products how we think it should be done and offer products that we're proud to use and we just put a lot of thought into. And so that was the transitioning point to, all right, we have really strong momentum, and the difficult part about growing a business, especially with as fast as we had with zero capital input. Right. I've never, we've never raised money. We didn't start with a mountain of debt. You know, there's no daddy's money here, despite some comments that think I come from a whole bunch of daddy money.
You're gonna get that.
I know,
just
and that's fine.
Your
that's
age
fine.
and
It doesn't
your level
bother
of
me.
success. Some people.
It doesn't bother me at all.
I've made a bunch of stuff, and I started with $300 that my brother gave me.
And so we literally bootstrapped. The only money I put in the business was to buy that first $500 printer. But the tricky thing is when you have that momentum and you're building and scaling, it's literally like playing, you know, like blackjack, and you keep going in. Right. And so like you got to keep like adding down, and you got to keep that momentum built. And so like that's why it's so tricky to do and do right and successfully, is because if you have just a couple missteps, like it can fall apart really quickly. And so we're like, okay, we have a lot of good momentum. We're going here. And that's when we decided to, all right, we're going to make this stuff and we're going to make it good. And so then we transitioned to the Starlight, this guy, where'd it go?
Right there.
That. Then we went to, let's make this, but let's make it right. To the best of our ability, right? Like we only had so many resources. So that's when we're like, we're going to machine the scope housing. And then, you know, we still had some parts that were 3D printed, but they were a better form of 3D printing. And so every time we can, every opportunity we have, we just kept trying to make it better and better and better and better. And then we came out with our first break into a new category was the Hinge 1, which people loved that release. And we were selling release accessories, 3D printed release accessories.
I remember all the little buttons and all that
and stuff. Yeah, I remember that.
And so we were all release freaks, and we had our certain way we liked the release to feel in our hand, and there was not one out there that really fit that for us. And so it was just a great next step for us to get into making a release.
Okay, let's go into this a little bit more, because like the scope, I can see how it would be not easy, but I can see how you could identify things that you'd prefer with a scope. But what you're talking about now, to me, is a much more difficult thing to explain. How do you identify what you don't like about what you're using when it comes to so much to feel on something like a release? So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to kind of double click on that a little bit more to get into the design side and the powwows that are happening of how do you come up with something like that?
Yeah. So I will say it's been great to have George as a resource. You know, when we design a product, there's so many variables. You know, you have the obvious ones like finish, materials, quality there, but then you also have like, well, how is this designed? What is it for? And when we do that, because we were all coached by George, who has spent his entire life in archery, and he's forgotten more than what we could ever even know. Like he knows the right and the wrongs, and he knows all the form fundamentals and how to do things correctly and how to just get everything all lined up. So when you're designing a product, you can design a product a certain way to help you do that more consistently or better just as an archer. You know, there are certain things, like a great example on releases is you want to be able to put your hand in the release the same every time, draw back the same every time, anchor the same, and then get through the release the same. Well, if the release is designed in such a way where you have to put your hand in it a little bit differently to draw it back through your peak weight and put a whole bunch of weight on a thumb peg and your index finger and then readjust at full draw, there's all these points of inconsistency that you can work in. And so from the very genesis of any of our products that we design, we go, how is this supposed to be used? And how can we design it so it works for you better? And so our releases, the fulcrum point of the head distributes the weight over your fingers a little more evenly.
That was a part that I found so interesting, because that came out early on and I was like, wow, how did they figure this out? Like that's,
so it allows you to put your fingers in the release and keep them in there that way the whole cycle without if you're drawing an 80-pound hunting bow, without having to have a crazy thumb peg and rip your index finger off. Also, our hunting bracket and that pad is a lot more natural spot to have your thumb sit, and like everything, all of that thought goes into a product when we're designing it. The width of the release, the radius of the curves on your finger. Like it's like I said, people don't. There's so many details. We'll spend a whole week arguing about a detail, and I'm like, guys, nobody's gonna care or notice about this. Like, why are we arguing?
You're like, because we're Ultraview and that's what we do.
Yeah.
Are you 3D printing models of those? Like when you're like, okay, let's just figure out whatever this radius here. Let's print one with X radius, one with Y, and one with Z, and let's just see what we think. Are you doing any of that? Okay,
that's the most effective way to do it. There's like more academic ways, which we've found like it's more useful to just test and break things and figure it out. But we have the textbooks. Like there's people out there that study human ergonomics and shapes of hands and limbs, and like people have gone out there and measured all the ratios and what to do. Like if you go to design school, you learn this, and like we have all those resources and we know all that. But like you're right, like the most effective way that we found and the quickest way to do it is just like, hey, we think this looks good and will work great. Let's print 5 different ones and see which one feels better and just run.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's fascinating.
And so, when we had the opportunity to do our first release, like that's the thought we put into it. Like, what do we want to do here? That's like actually going to make this appealing. Because we could just come out with a release. But it's like, why would anybody buy? Like, why are we going to do it?
Because it's in great packaging.
Yeah, because it's in great packaging. Yeah, and that's why. Like, we're like, hey, we put so much thought into this. Like, this is, there's a saying out there, like, how you do one thing is how you do all things. Yeah.
All right, so keep going through some of the iterations, because now what we've moved into is the scope. So you're getting into the machining.
So we're getting into machining. We're machining our scopes. The release was our first product that was fully machined. I remember when we started machining, I was still in college. I skipped my senior design lecture. Actually, I skipped that whole day at school to go around the entire Atlanta metro area, and I basically got on my knees to every local machine shop and was like, can you please make this for me? I need like 400 units by this date, which was like 2 weeks away. Because I'm going to a trade show in Vegas and I want to launch this product in Vegas.
There's lead times in getting materials.
Yeah, that's when I learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah.
And so, the fourth or fifth machine shop, I think, I don't know, they were probably like, this poor kid doesn't even know what he doesn't know. And like, we'll do it for him. And so they started cutting for us. And then once we got that relationship with that machine shop, that made designing our first fully machined release that much easier, because we had that right there. And so this isn't our first Hinge 1. This is actually a prototype of the Hinge 2 that never made the light of day. I know one of you asked for, we'll get into it later. Like
I would love to see more stuff that didn't. Yeah.
And so then that's kind of how we got into making higher quality machined products in different categories. And then it's like, what are we going to do to improve this UV2 scope? Because like there's a lot in here. This doesn't satisfy us yet. Like we know there's so much more opportunity. And then it came to like prototyping what really is the UV3 scope as you know it today. And so to the design point, it's like, we're like, how do we make this product great? And we're like, well, we want you to be able to swap the cartridge out, because some guys are shooting a vertical 1-pin at tack and then throwing in like different pin setups. And our patent on our cartridge and light that we got when we got this like kind of covers like that whole area. And so we're like, how do we make a cartridge system for the light and pins that's just super easy to use, very robust and accurate? And like one of our ideas was, what if there was no tools involved at all? And it was like this cammed system.
Yeah, these big external clips.
Where you pop you loosen this up, swap your cartridge, and then just like cam it down and it locks, and you don't need an Allen wrench at all. Turns out this doesn't look great.
It's not aesthetically pleasing.
It's not aesthetically pleasing. There's like 10 more parts than are necessary,
There's a couple of giant failures on there with the toggles.
So like, this also never saw the light of day.
The idea, the concept of that, was that heavily influenced by your machine shop that you were dealing with?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Because I've dealt with a lot of
machine
machinists.
shops hate us.
That looked like something I would have thought a machinist would have went, well, why don't we just use a lever right here?
But I can
kind of thing.
totally see why you
Yeah.
would have said we want a removable cartridge. So how do we do this? Because
Yeah.
we need to create
Sure.
tension on the cartridge.
No,
well,
100%.
it's a pipe clamp.
Yeah.
You know, like
And so we just kept iterating and improving, like, how do we make this better? And then we came out with the UV3. I mean, that was a crazy successful launch. That was, I think, right when COVID like started. to
yeah,
kick
that
off.
one went bananas. How old were you when that was happening? You're 28 now.
I'm like 20. I was like 28 now.
22,
I was like,
23.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
23,
22, 23.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's funny to think about that. Like in context, you've been doing it for years, though. At this point, still, like you've still been working for years, and like you're not one of those kids who went and just jacked around until you were 25. Like you weren't, you know, like it
Yeah.
took me a lot longer to reach a level where I could do what you're doing. And yeah,
The
so that
thing
makes
I
sense.
see, so I actually am still involved with a lot of the entrepreneurial programs at Georgia Tech, and you know I help a lot of the teams and kids when I can. And one of the things that I see that I can't imagine, like it just would be so difficult, is when I started this business, I had already been in the industry for like almost 10 years, you know, and for the last 4 or 5 years of that, like pretty seriously at a deep level. When I started this business, I had like almost every name that you could think of in my phone already. And so when I happened to have just started making, you know, my own equipment to solve my own problems, and like, you know, Lancaster was like one of our first big accounts because I was great friends with them, and you know, I competed with their daughter Casey Kaufeld. Like we went to Argentina together. And
Fuck
like
those people.
I'm
just kidding. I'm totally messing.
like, you know, and so I see it though when kids at Tech are like, "Oh, I want to have this startup and go do this thing," and I'm like, "What do you know about the industry? Like, who do you know? Like, where's like what's?" And it's just like they don't have. It's like you got a lot of work ahead of you. Like you got to go to trade shows, you got to talk to people, you got to like figure out the industry. And so like I did have a huge. When I look back, it took me a while to realize that, but I did kind of have a head start because I had been in the industry so deep already.
Well, you also had access to George,
Yes.
which is a big deal. But all those things, like everybody has those resources for themselves in some capacity.
I'll say
You just-
everybody, like the thing is though, is like everybody has access to George. I just took advantage of it. Like I will find opportunities and then just like take the absolute most advantage of them. George is the most like, he's like, come on, like if you wanted to have a lesson with George, like book one virtually, come in town, he'll talk to you for 4 hours. You want to learn anything you want about archery, manufacturing, history, patents, whatever about this sport, he will happily talk to you about
I
it.
want George to come to Nashville to the shop and train a bunch of people. I need him to text me back.
I'm
That's
sure
it.
he'll
Come on,
happily
George.
do that.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll
So,
harass him until it happens.
You got to keep
I will.
harassing him.
I will.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so UV3. And then it came the original plan.
If we need to, I can come over there
No, you're
and
good.
fix stuff if we need to.
The original plan with the business strategy was, because I'm a target archery guy, was let's make the absolute best product in each category for target archers. And then once we've checked all of those boxes, like surely we'll be able to really sink our teeth in to like the bow hunting market, right? But then we kind of realized, like just with, you know, the scales of the market, they're completely different. You know, target archery is like
It's a hard part of the industry to make money at.
less than
Like you,
10%.
yeah, you picked the hardest part to focus
and
on.
So
like
there was something fundamentally flawed with that business model idea, and it was that we just could not get enough volume to support what we really wanted to do.
well, and it's hard to deny your passion up front until you start realizing
Right.
the scale of what you're dealing with.
Right. And then it became obvious, like we're gonna have to we're gonna have to start making really great products for like the real archery market out there.
Majority.
Which is like, you know, the bow hunting market in America. Completely different, much larger than target archery, right?
Sure.
And then so it's like, well, where, you know, Chris is obviously like a huge bow hunter. Like I'm very, very close with him. A lot of guys here are huge bow hunters. And so it's like, well, where, you know, we started looking around and like, what are we gonna do? And it was a great next step for us because everybody already had one of our scopes.
Yep.
We were finding people were buying our, you know, just our scope because that's all we were selling at the time. And they would retrofit a target scope to go on their like slider sight.
I did.
Chris forced us.
I did.
Yeah. Chris, like you, Chris forced us. He's like, dude, make an up pin. I don't care how you do it. Make an up pin, put it in here.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. And then we started selling both a hunting scope and a target scope. And I mean, you can look at the graphs. The target scope's like plateaued, and the hunting scope was just up and to the right. And I'm like, well,
what are we doing here, guys?
I'm like, wait a second. What?
Hold on a second.
And it's like people would buy our scope and then mount it to a high-end sliding site. And I'm like, okay, there's something here.
The number of landslides I sold without a head.
Yeah.
During the stage 3 of the sites, when you got a more of a bit of a dealer model, because at first you didn't have one.
Yep.
I couldn't even tell you the number, but it was during COVID. I started changing my buying habits a crap ton during then, and I ended up with probably thousands of landslides whathout heads on them, and I sold a crap ton of them, and they were probably most likely all getting your scope head on them.
Yeah. And so like, what's going on here? And then we kind of looked. Now, I would go to the Total Archery Challenges and shoot and ham it up with the guys and all that. And so like I had a hunting rig and set up, but I don't really go out and hunt like you guys do.
True.
And we kind of looked and like everybody had a different preference on their sliding site.
Yep.
And then we're like, okay, we got to do something about this. And then that's kind of the genesis story to the original UV slider.
Gotcha.
And then we're like, when we started digging into that, and it was like, we bit off. We're always biting off more than we can chew here, and then we figure out like how are we gonna figure this out? That's what we do. And that's how this guy came to be. And this was like we launched this, I don't know, 2 years ago.
Before we hit on that, so you at this point you've got the button, you've got the hinge. Did the 2 version come out yet?
So we got the hinge 2.
Okay. You've got scopes, and you're machining a lot of stuff.
Yes.
But you haven't bought a machine shop or invested yourself into a machine shop.
Correct.
And you're machining the aluminum stuff here in town.
Yeah, we started. So let's see. We told the story where I literally begged for the local machine shop to make the UV2.
Yeah, the genesis of most of these things is they start
like
buying machines and doing it themselves, or
Right.
working with somebody locally, and ended up buying that sort of thing out.
And so we
So I
were
was
building the
just
plane in the air, right? And so the local machine shop worked with us for a while until it just became like our growth. I don't even know how to say it. Like the growth we have experienced as a company over the last 5-6 years, like has been like unheard of. Like we have been one of the fastest growing private companies in the country, period. We were just named the 8th fastest growing private company in the state of Georgia.
Dude, and you've never brought in outside capital?
No.
Or debt?
No.
That is unbelievable.
Well, we do operate. We work with a bank very closely now, so we do operate with some like working debt, but like no long-term cap debt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
investors.
don't know how you've done it in that short a time.
And
that's amazing.
It's been like stupid difficult. And if I hadn't been all in with absolutely zero safety net and no option to fail, like I don't know if I could have done it. It's almost killed me a dozen times. I mean, I could tell you 12 different stories on this podcast of like me ending up in the emergency room because I was eating. That's a famous story, like eating $1 burritos, like working on printers, just like doing whatever, bleeding my. Because even
Whatever
at
you can
college,
do.
I was working like 4 jobs in college, nights downtown, doing this, doing undergraduate research. Like I always I'll not take care of myself and just push myself. But like to get back to your original question, we've grown like so stupid fast. It was like, okay, we have this mountain of orders over here.
Yeah.
And we have this much production capacity over here with this current vendor. Like, what are we going to do? And so I'm still, the UV2, I think we didn't have a facility. I was still in my dorm room or George's basement. And so I remember sitting in my college dorm room on my computer, looking on Google for like manufacturing resources. Like, and there's services where you can upload your 3D file and your technical drawings, and they'll quote it out and they'll give you lead times. And I did that game, and I saw these and I quoted it out, and I found a company I liked, and I'm like, sweet, let's send me parts. And the part showed up, and we just started making them, and it's just like awesome. Like the internet has just provided me with manufacturing resources, and like the quality looks great, like they're coming in good. And so like we scaled that way, and then it's like, you're moving so fast. And because we had the momentum, there was no safety net. We had orders. We could not lose that momentum. We had to go, ship on our promises. It was like, by the time you picked your head up, it's like, holy crap, what are we doing? And then it's like, because it's grown so fast, like it's crazy. And then, by the time I even had a second to like look at like supply chain and this and that, it's like, all right, then I started talking to those companies more. And it's like, yeah, we have a global supply chain here. And we have a whole team here at our facility that like their whole job is focused and dedicated to that. There are a lot of people out there that think we are a like 100% made in China, and we get like shipping containers of our stuff shipped over on a boat, and like
Chinese-eum is the word that people use.
That's my favorite.
As a brand guy, it's a good word.
Yeah.
High grade Chinese-eum.
I like it.
That's not what we are. And, unfortunately, we're not also like 100% made in USA, right? Like we kind of fall in between, and it's been kind of a symptom of just rapid growth and trying to figure it out in the like 21st century manufacturing landscape. Sure. And so
let's go into that more.
Yeah.
Let's go into it more, because that was one of the things that, we kind of said like on the front end, hey, we want to talk to you about the, overseas manufacturing stuff. Because I think that with the tariff conversation that's happened, and then, there's just kind of a new, like, there's a lot of like, hey, made in America thing. But what I wanted to do more was to give you the opportunity to explain what you kind of just did a bit, which was like almost a desperation due to some of the growth.
Yeah.
And then like, you can comment down below if you want about what an asshole I am. But I got to be honest, I don't judge because of the global landscape that has happened over the last 50 years in literally the entire world. We've become a world economy, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because I think we're starting to see some really negative net effects. But because of this, so many of the factories that we would probably be using to try to make stuff over here have gone overseas.
They don't exist in the United States.
They either don't exist, or they're so expensive that it makes it, you can't compete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you can't do it.
Most of the American-made stuff you see in this industry, they own their own facility. Like they have their own things, which is where I was trying to originally go to. Is at what point did you go, do we buy machines and
we actually
run machines in CNCs?
We did sit down and consider that at one point very deliberately, but we ran through it.
You guarantee would have had
so
to borrow
that
money.
requires outside capital.
Yeah.
Taken away from how we've built. We'd be an entirely different structure company now.
I have an immense amount of respect for, because I got to where I am without borrowing money. Like I borrowed against myself. I got my house paid off at one point, turned around and borrowed against my house to buy my dad's business that we both built, and almost never borrowed from the bank. So I respect. It's hard to do. Like
it's very hard,
and you kill yourself trying.
Yeah.
There's not a more American story than betting on yourself.
No, for sure.
Yeah. And we realized, because we're so I think one of the things I hope, I think about this all the time, just in the car, or even just when I'm just talking to my wife. One of the things I really hope we never forget about here is to be customer focused, and to be hyper obsessively focused on the customer experience and the product. And so when we were making these business decisions, we prioritized that 100% of the time. And I will tell you, every time we have not prioritized that and we prioritize something else, it bites us in the ass. And sometimes you got to learn lessons the hard way and be reminded. But every time we make a decision, we try to think of the customer experience first, and then the product second. And when we made all these micro decisions, and sometimes big decisions through that lens, it always led down to like, what's best for the product and the customer. And that was kind of the lens we looked through things. And once we're able to tackle these very big, challenging problems in a better way, to where the customer and the customer experience can't even notice at all that we're tackling these problems and solving internal issues, that's when we'll kind of address those and improve internally. Because nobody cares about us. Nobody cares about us, the company, at all, right?
Nope.
Like,
And they're listening to this right now, and they're going, Kolby's full of shit. That's not the only reason. They're all, and I know that, because that, like, they're thinking like, this guy is driving a Lambo. Like, that's what he's doing. Like, Kolby comes, he's a rich kid, and he drives a Lambo.
Right?
I didn't see a Lambo outside, by the way.
There was no Lambo.
Up, just FYI.
There were a couple of nice looking rigs out there, but nothing on that scale.
And so it's, companies lose their way when they start positioning themselves as the hero or themselves as number one. And so we are working very hard on this best we can with ensuring it doesn't touch the customer experience in the slightest at all. And we can still maintain excellence there, right? And so I think you maybe alluded to it a little earlier. Like we have a couple very big things like in the near future that are going to be like probably a pretty big surprise for most of the industry. We're working very hard on a lot of things. We believe we know what matters, and we think that's the customer and their experience and the product. That's what we stay focused on.
But it may be a little bit suboptimal as far as some of the manufacturing stuff in order to kind of get there.
Too. It just came out, and I'm only offering it up because I thought it was a great video. It's by Smarter Every Day. It's a huge YouTube channel, and he just did like a 45-minute video on like manufacturing and made in America. It was such a great video. So
we'll have to watch it on the way home.
Listen to it. It's great.
Yeah.
If anybody really wants to get a quick, too long didn't read 45-minute recap on like manufacturing and why this is a topic we're talking about right now, watch that video. He does a very good job. And it's just like the punchline is like all in any industry, really globally, like all supply chain roads lead back to China right now. And that's a problem, right?
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Well, yeah, even if you're machining something in the United States, there's a really good possibility the raw good was not actually made there at all or manufactured.
You're importing the aluminum.
They're importing the aluminum, steel.
Yeah.
You forget about, I can't remember the name of it, fabrics, what they call it?
Textiles.
Forget about textiles.
Forget about textiles.
Forget about it.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
Yeah.
Like you can't, like
Textiles,
our restrictions
Like
environmentally don't allow it.
I come from Sitka prior to here, and like there's a reason why Sitka makes stuff in Vietnam and all the places that they do, is because working with those textiles and the skilled labor to handle and make things to an aesthetic and high quality bar, you cannot do that in the U.S. And if you do, it's very compliant for DOD reasons, and your Gore-Tex jacket costs $1,300, and that's an entirely different thing. Hard goods and textiles are fundamentally different, but some of the carryover of like, where do the physical machines exist on the planet, and where do the skilled hands to run those machines, where do those people live? The 1970s happened, and America said, we'll send that work elsewhere. It's not a great...
Heads up.
Almost
They do
died.
that sometimes. That's why you had to sign that waiver. When
Yeah. It's a good move.
It's not a great story.
Well, it's not. There are some aspects of it though that are great, because there are truthfully, and I know this is
Capitalism is incredible.
There are some things that we don't want to manufacture in this country, and that is a really, really gross reality. Because there's some things that are heavily pollutant, that are toxic, whatever, that it would be better for them to be manufactured somewhere else, and that's another really shitty reality. But there is this renewed push to bring stuff back into the States,
100%.
and it's never going to happen with stuff like textiles. It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Unless
there
we
are
all have the same,
global
unless we have the whole
ramifications and-
environmental laws the same everywhere.
Yeah.
That never happens.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
And I do want to say this just as like the brand leader here at Ultraview. The Chinese-eum thing and like the knocks that we hear, like the paper that Kolby read from this box is like, we invite your feedback and we listen to it. That is 100% still true. Mm-hmm. I read more than I should on the internet, and we listen to it. Some of the stuff that we hear is feedback that is helpful and it's net positive, and it's like, that's actually insightful information.
Yeah.
Let's funnel that to product team. A lot of it is like, you're free to not like us, man. Like, I don't know how to help you. And it's not an antagonistic view. It's just
it's reality. You can't
we
please
don't
everyone.
pretend that everybody is our customer.
Yeah.
And if you want to shop elsewhere because you hold a certain set of beliefs and you elevate that belief into your purchasing criteria of that's what we do, I love that for you. And no one's going to come at me and say, like, I'm not the most American dude in every room. I wear a kill bad dude's wrist. My water bottle says, register communists, not firearms. Like, I'm as American as people get, right? We are actively pushing in our product development pipeline and supply chain to onshore stuff to the U.S. when appropriate within certain categories. We will have stuff coming out later this year that is very likely to be 100% USA made, manufactured, assembled, all of it. Mm-hmm. It's like, we were doing that long before Trump got elected and the tariff conversation heated up again. We want to build the best things. And the unfortunate reality, and I do mean unfortunate, is that sometimes to make the best things, you have to go outside our country's borders. I hate that just as much as everybody else. But if we want to create a superior product, we will go where we can manufacture superior components to build those products. The current global landscape is such that sometimes we have to leave America to do that. That's not something that we shy away from discussing here. I think there's kind of this tone and tenor on the internet of like Ultraview doesn't want to talk about some of our parts are made overseas. I don't agree with that. I've only been here a year. We just try to make stuff that's awesome that people love and put it in a dope box so that you unbox it and smoke a cigar.
Adult box first.
Right.
Box first.
Well, I mean, what you said about like the customer experience has been the priority, which means
Because if we lose the demand in the lore and the people being interested in our products, then like what is there to manufacture?
right.
And so it's like the whole plan from the very beginning is like build a huge amount of demand, build a brand, build products, build all this opportunity to capitalize onto. Let that stabilize to where we can at least predict a little bit of the future and know what we're looking at. Because we've like, you'd love to play forecasting here because it's like, what number's going in the box? We have no idea because like we have no historicals. And
That's been
it's
another interesting thing that I think, like listening to the journey of the like, holy crap, we didn't know that this was going to be so big. And then the catch up the game that you're playing behind the scenes in order to actually get the pretty box into people's hands. I think that's something that's important for people to realize too, is that like you guys were a brand new company that exploded. And so therefore you're going, we just need somebody that can not make 400 of these, but we need 4,000 of these in 2 weeks. And where do those come from?
right.
And how do we do
And
this?
a lot of the times, like you wouldn't even know, especially when it's just like I was a one-man show basically, like running the threads of the business at the time, and it's just like I didn't have that much time to like really. It was just like if you found a solution, you took it, and then you just went to the next problem, solved that problem, and it was just like you do this, and I did that for like pretty much until just recently have I really felt like the team and like Craig and those here are like they're able to really free me up to where like I'm just not like putting out fires and solving problems all day. And so like we finally just got to that point. But yeah, it's just been a massive like sprint.
I think we present as much bigger than we actually are, and some of the criticism comes from that because there's a lot of like spit, shine, and polish on the brand, and the packaging is fancy, and it's like that's an Apple iPad box, which is absolutely intentional. But it's like if you present a certain way, people love to hate on that guy. Well, somebody's got to lead from the front. Why shouldn't it be us?
Sure. Well, and the other thing, you have staff here. Like we walked in and I saw a lady wrapping fibers, through one of the houses. Like it's not like you guys, like you're
you're not
employing
getting a
locally
completed
here, too.
product sitting in here. You're having parts sourced
Everything
other
is
places and still
everything is
assembling it here.
assembled in this building. Like raw bits and pieces come in the loading dock, and we build everything right here.
Well, that creates an interesting reality to this. It's like, I get there's people that are, this is American made, this is not American made. But once again, your raw good isn't. In general, like, is your stock for your site, like say Excel, for example, is there aluminum made here, or are they just cutting the aluminum here? And at what point are you distinguishing a difference between American versus Chinese? Because you're not getting a fully enclosed site.
Not
like
even
that
close.
off of a boat.
Not even close.
Yeah,
No.
you're assembling, and that
parts-
I honestly did not know that one way or another. And
Parts
it's very
from-
blatant
yeah.
that you're just getting parts and
That
you're assembling
site
them. So at what
comes-
point do you draw the line?
It's completely disassembled on pallets. Just
Yeah,
like
I can see that.
Yeah. Some parts come in locally, some parts come in nationally, and it's like it's not all sourced from one, like it's truly global. And some things, some of the manufacturing methods we need maybe can only be done in one region of the world with some special machine or technician.
Sure.
And you can't do it here unless you were like, okay, we need to do this one specific thing with this one specific like machining method to solve this problem for our manufacturer needs. I'm going to set up a whole little machine area to do this one particular thing. Like you can't do that unless you're only planning to do that for your job shops, and they don't do that. And so, we're very close to the boys at Matthews, and they have a beautiful facility, and they have the luxury to do cool stuff like that all the time. Like I would love to just play in their machine shop all day long, because they just like, they got to solve one problem. Like, all right, well, let's set this machine up to do that. And it's just like, that's like the like dream state, right?
Yeah,
like we're taking
We would love to
steps.
have our own machine shop, just for the record.
Steps.
Yeah. Well, and it didn't start in 1992.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, we don't have
you've had a
3.5
long
decades.
and there were one guy or two guys in a building and
Yeah.
bolting stuff together that wasn't actually cut there.
Well,
right?
they also,
So
I'd be
that
curious,
starts
like
somewhere,
the
regardless.
journey of how many mistakes they have made and then been like, oh, crap, that didn't work. Let's get rid of this and let's shift to this. The amount of times that you've probably had a certain manufacturer making something and been like, we didn't love that. Let's go this other way. Again, that's the stuff that's all under the water that nobody can see. So, yeah. I also don't want
some of
people
that is
to-
on us, by the way. I do want to say that, like championing our own story, like everything that he just described is largely not known by 90% of our consumers.
Right.
That's a distinctly American entrepreneurship story for a young man who has built something that everybody should be proud of, and I'm certainly damn proud to work here. That's incredibly difficult to do. We should own putting that story out there more than we do. That's part of why I'm excited to be here. Is like, if you can't get behind that, then you're an alien and you should go to space, because I don't know what you're doing here. It's like, I really feel that way.
Okay. I like it.
But it's frequently hard to tell your own story.
Sure, because
Right,
it feels
you-
self-aggrandizing and like
It
chest
does.
beating.
Well,
it's like,
that's definitely how it comes across, but it's clearly not what you're doing.
you could do it in a way that's humble. And like we were talking about earlier, not everyone is going to be on your team. And I certainly don't pretend like we have to get the entire pie for our plate. Like that's just not the way that this works. I'm a brand dude, core values, beliefs, physical product aesthetic, like how you're presenting your story versus your competitors. Or in our case, like we don't really talk about competitors at all. We just talk about what we do, because that's kind of a belief that I have. You just find your tribe.
Right.
And like, you cannot please everyone. We're certainly not going to try. If you like some of what you've heard here and you want to like shop our goods, that's fantastic. We got a 14-day no questions asked return policy. If you don't like it, we'll send it straight back and give you your money back. Try it.
Well, and what you've accomplished in general is incredible. Like it really is. I guarantee you there's not another story like this in archery, period, anywhere. And largely from the standpoint of you've picked different categories completely. Like if you follow brands, they don't do that. They do not go, okay, we're going to make a scope, and then we're going to make a release, and then we're going to make a sight. We're going to make stabilizers. We're going to make arrows. They don't do that. Like what you've done, no one's done. And you've grown throughout it. Like most brands try to do that, they'll fall on their face, like badly, because you don't know each individual thing and the ins and outs of it. So like this whole thing is a success story that's beyond measurement of anybody, and in this space, period, and probably in just about any space, really. You don't do that. Like you've done things people don't do.
Well, I appreciate all the kind words, guys.
You should.
Well, it's very true. You don't do that. Like
Kolby does not receive compliment and credit very much. You should internalize what he just said.
like don't.
Yeah, I
like,
mean, it does mean a lot.
You've bit off things people don't bite off for a reason. Like if you're in the site world and you're making sites, you're going to make sites for 10, 15, 20 years and honestly always improve and make a better product and compare that thing. You're like over here and over there and over here and over there fighting the high end of it every time. Like they don't do that. They just don't. Like
It's tough. I mean, I think it's like, it's been...
it reinforces that you kind of have to do things the way you're doing it.
I think
like
too,
there's no way you could do all that and
The
not
thing with me too is
use
like
that resource.
I feel it's not just me, right? Like it has never always just been me. I have, on paper, like I have been the one taking all the risks, signing all the stuff. Like, it has been my business from the very beginning and like all that. But like I have surrounded myself with like-minded people. And I think one of the things lately is surrounding yourself with a very small core group of people who have similar values, beliefs, and standards, to where I can kind of like let go of the vine, or getting somebody in a seat. And this is my job here, is to get everybody in the right seats who are better at what they're doing than what I was, and whose standards at what they do are better than mine. Right. And like my job here is to have everybody here doing such a great job. I don't have a job anymore.
Yeah.
And once you're able to really cultivate that team of people, and then they're able to start working together, and they understand the mission, and they understand how to make decisions aligned with that mission for the business, that's really when you can start like really doing magical things. And I really do feel like we have that super core group of people. Like there's a Slider 2 is about to come out. There's a section in our launch film where it talks about how like everybody here really wants to be here. I like tear up every time I watch that section, because like I am just so happy and fulfilled that everybody here is just pumped to be here. They get a lot of purpose and value out of the work that they do, which is important to me, because you spend a majority of your life working. If you do not like what you do on a daily basis, like that, you should consult that problem. Mm-hmm. And so I try to not live with too many regrets, and I try to like I absolutely love what I do, and I'm just so pumped that I have a team here that also loves what they're doing, and they understand the mission that we're on. And I think that's probably been like one of the hardest things for me, and the thing I've worked on the longest has been cultivating that team and getting that mission and those core values to where like this is now like if I get hit by a bus, like this should operate lickety split without me. Like that's how I know if I've succeeded. And so, I've been the one personally guaranteeing everything and taking the risk on how many of those button releases do you think we should order on our, because we have to order our production before we get any orders in from anybody.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, how many do you think we're going to order? Put that number in that box, and then 2 weeks later I'm like throwing up because I'm so nervous that like, holy shit, are we actually like, what if we don't sell that many? Like,
if it's any consolation,
like
I 100% understand how that feels.
Yeah,
like, I see products before the market sees them and placing orders and stuff, and
the risk too,
I'll
like
go big.
The risk,
it's
there's hundreds of parts in this bill of materials.
Oh yeah,
hundreds. And if we don't have one of the parts in this bill of material in this building for launch, we can't ship this thing.
Yeah.
So we literally are playing a game where we have to get hundreds of these little variables lined up perfectly in the building at the same time. Because if you get one part in 2 months before, like you got to pay for that stuff. And like, how are we going to pay for it if we're not selling the product and like bootstrapping it? And like you have these gaps in your AR and AP, and it's like this massive chess game of like, how are you lining all this up while also just like being all in? And it's like, this has to go flawlessly. Like it's been a lot.
For sure.
And you're 28 years old.
A fresh 28. Yeah.
Well, it's also like there's, and I don't want to keep harping on it, but like the other aspect of this, the finance side, is fascinating to me. We can talk about it offline a little bit more, but like the idea that basically the sacrifice that you have made, because all the money that's still inside of this thing is technically your money. And it's in here as operating money that you've already paid taxes for. And it's just rolling in this thing. And that, like, just that part of it, like that freaks me out. Freaks me out. All right. So you introduced a new product.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about that now?
I would love to. I mean, you can.
Craig?
You want to talk about it? I mean.
Yeah. So there on the table here, we've got our 3 mounting versions of this is Slider 2. So this is actually, this is my Slider 1 that Kolby and Chris sent me like early. It's still got silver like
that was an
R&D
original
pin.
one.
Yeah, this is a old one. I shot my bull last year with this sight.
I've got the OG version still on my bow. I just upgraded to like the production version of it. Like I had like a prototype version of it.
yeah,
the one I had in
Proto.
PA was one of the silver screws. Was
Silver
one of the original
screws are
ones.
how you know, yeah.
one of the original ones.
So we've got our new Slider 2. It comes in direct mount, pick mount, and bridge lock. You will just like form factor. So like this is the bridge lock version of Slider 2, versus the OG slider is like a significant change.
Massive
Drastic, yeah.
size difference.
So Kolby could speak to this better than me, but as you know, we're 8 years old as a company. Designing for manufacturability is like a whole area of like, you should make it in such a way that it's easier to make.
Right.
I'm a brand guy. I'm like,
That's not my
Right, you're
job.
like,
that makes sense.
I don't care about that
But,
at
like,
all.
This is less parts, faster on the line, easier to assemble, better to manufacture. And all of that is like, well, how does that benefit the customer? Because we're about customer experience.
Sure.
It's more durable, less points of failure. It's like, this is way better than this.
Yeah, it is.
So-
100%. It's smoother. The clicks are better. The positive of it's
Yeah.
better. The leveling system's better.
Yeah.
Everything about it's better.
It's optimized, right? And I think one of the big things when we were designing the first slider was we didn't have any data on elevation or windage, and obviously we want this to fit as many bows as possible, right? And so we kind of picked a wide range, so we knew everybody fit. Well, once we had these in the market, we could actually ask a customer, hey, where's your windage set? Where's your elevation set? We can go all super nerd on that and like plot a bell curve, look at where everybody's actually sitting, and we can cut out what we don't need.
Cut out the excess.
And so that's what we really have. That's one of the major things which makes the windage, the elevation, everything so much more compact, lighter, simple, less parts, is that we're actually able to learn from our product that has now been out in the field.
Yeah.
Once again, a site manufacturer making sites for 10 years and evolution,
right.
et cetera. That's just what's so difficult about what you've done.
Yeah. So like when you're making things, you design off your present level of experience. Sure. Like we just have way more experience.
Oh, drastic, yeah.
Now since then. So this is just wildly improved. I think that we're very confident that this is the best sliding site system that we can make today. We're already tinkering on future iterations. Like Kolby's on the engineering department, they live like 18 plus months in the future.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you have to.
I live like today and 90 days into the future with messaging and working on all the things. We're super stoked on this. We're recording this on July 7th. This site will launch on Wednesday, July 9th. I'm assuming this will come out pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, we'll get it done quick.
Yep.
But yeah, we're super pumped on this. Some of the listening to feedback, I'm sure you have questions about why did we make some of the choices that we did with this, but we have heard a lot in the market with the original slider, the Matthews Genuine, which is a site that we manufacture for Matthews to sell. There are a lot of similarities in this site and the Matthews Genuine. There are key differences as well. This is our product. The Matthews Genuine is a Matthews product. But we're super pumped to launch this thing. We're very excited about some of how we have pressed the design language within sliding sites as a category. And again, this is something that we're very proud of. There are components and parts of this which are now patented.
Yes. Lots of patents on the slider.
Do you want to
Well, I'm
disclose what those are, or
I
is that
can,
just
yeah.
in-house? Well, if it's important or relevant to you.
No, it is relevant. I mean, we're proud of our patents. So
Yeah.
the thing with patents, our first patent was on this guy when we won that competition, right?
Yeah,
and that's
it
cool.
came-
They
it
gave
came
you,
with it, correct?
They gave
Yeah.
you the
Yeah.
patent. That's
Yeah.
really neat.
That's
And
Yeah.
so in the process of actually doing I learned a lot about patents at Georgia Tech going
They are
through
a
that
nightmare.
process. And they're a nightmare, but it's like patents are so unique. And when we patent something here, it actually means something. And it's something relatively important. A lot of, not even in our industry, but just anywhere, a lot of people patent anything just because, and they kind of say patented and it helps marketing. They think,
I know
and all
this
that.
is annoying. I'm going to keep running this out because I want to see how far it goes. But
Yeah.
I'm literally just sitting here, just being an asshole, just clicking while Kolby's talking. So,
And so
keep
when
going.
we patent something, there's a lot of purpose behind it and it's very deliberate. And so when we were designing the original slider, one of the things we noticed early on was one of the most important things with the sliding site is how easy is it to slide the dang thing. And
Pretty
so
simple concept,
we wanted
right?
a pretty simple concept. So we wanted a big dial that was obstruction free. And with any other sight, you generally find a windage knob somewhere adjacent to the dual dial system, whether it's in front and it's a rod or it's just somewhere around here. And so we're like, well, actually the most convenient ergonomic place for this windage is in the big elevation. So your elevation is obstruction free. You can move it super easy. The lock will be right here. So the lock's right next to your index finger, and it's all super compact right here. So the original slider patent was our dual dial system, which has the concentric windage with elevation. Also in that was the quick break system here, where you can just unrack the whole system, whether it's to travel, clean it out, what have you. And a lot of other, little tiny things in here as well, like the lock where it's located. But yeah, the thing with patents is they take forever.
Yeah.
And so we are already on to our whole second generation of this product. And that is when our first generation product patent is actually
applied.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
So you had some questions. I remember you saying, so the bar is shorter on this.
Yeah, like I've put those on a couple different bows and maxed it out to where it's not quite running into my arrow yet. So you're losing a little bit of range, and a couple of your other competitors' ones are a little bit farther. And that was one of my. I only had a couple of gripes, to be honest, if I'm going to pick something apart, especially with the newer changes, which I haven't actually put in my hands. Well, I guess I saw one in Montana, but I like the fact that you took the light out of it as a secondary option and got yourself into a price point that's really competitive in the high end thing without being above it. Which was a really nice plus in your direct mount model. You didn't have enough holes, and mind you, I'm picking apart the Matthews version of it,
Sure.
right? Because that's what I had. I had that on. I hunted that with that from November to February for the most part. I think I used one other site throughout that whole thing. Killed most of my deer with it this last year. There weren't enough holes in it. Like I maxed it out and had to adjust some things on the vertical 3 to get my 20. But I have a longer draw length, longer bow.
So
They
that problem
put those
specifically has been
I
solved.
don't know if you looked at me, but I went like this and smiled. I went, there's more holes.
I think they even added. They may have even added one more. From,
So we've
Yeah.
been hunting prototypes with this since early this year. One of the things that I did as soon as I got here was stand up a new testing and evaluation team, guys that know how to make things. It's like, hey, I'm gonna send you this. Tell us what you think. What is wrong with it? What are the edge cases? That was one of the very first like easily identifiable things. It's like some people can't get a 20 on that fixed middle third pin. We need more mounting. I think we've
I
added,
think within a day of getting that originally, I called Chris, who used to work for you in your retail thing, because he had lived in Spokane for several years before he moved down here. He was like, hey, am I missing something? I can't get all the way up.
Yeah.
Played with it all and
Yeah.
got it to work, but it was
so
maxed.
that's solved.
So that's
And then,
resolved.
Honestly, what you're doing here, I just want to call this out. You're like, how far will the windage go out on the direct mount?
Yeah.
There are edge cases, and I do mean edge, where that windage bar might not quite be enough, pending how thick your riser is and like how you have it set up.
and how much face contact you have.
Yeah.
There's that.
There's some other things. If you buy the direct mount and it won't go far enough, we have a bar. Call us. We'll send it to you free of charge. Solve your windage issue. So but that's like statistically not a significant enough problem that you need to include it in the hardware kit, and that's like cost of manufacturing. Like it's
Well,
all
you're also
about
shaving. You're
scales.
shaving weight.
You're
for
shaving
other
weight.
people,
Yeah,
too.
most
And
people
so
don't want that in there.
to your point earlier, like why is the rack so short? Like that's a weight thing. And so it's like, would you rather have it be less weight, or would you rather get to 130?
Oh, I want 130.
Right. So that's it. Like not everybody
But
would
majority
choose
of people
that.
would not. So I totally
And so
get it.
You're
It's just
making
it's a personal,
concessions.
like,
yeah.
You can't get 130 with your bottom pin. Come on.
well, I want to way farther than 130, but
Oh my
I
gosh.
want to. I will
No, I mean,
adjust.
he'll go up
I
to
will-
200.
I will
I-
adjust things till I run out of I run to the arrow. Period. That's just, but that's just me.
So why did you take the tack pin
like
off
shooting one.
over the top of the bubble?
We took it off because we just put in movable pins.
So that's what I was thinking
Yeah.
too. Is it looks
Yeah.
to me like that bottom pin can sink basically and sit almost
Yeah.
on top of the bubble.
And then I think in our V3, do we have a V3? The bottom pin on the V3 is pretty dang low too.
Yeah.
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 And
Yeah, I
every
love- I
piece
love
of fiber you
everything
add
about that other
drastically
than that one.
increases
Smaller.
cost of manufacturing.
What?
10 thou.
yeah.
Oh, well, we can make you some maybe special ones.
Is
you ask
it the
very
same
nicely.
bar though, or is it narrower? Because
see
the
that
bar's kind of a little broad at that.
The vertical.
For the long
Yeah.
stuff, it just gets big.
Yeah.
And that was really my only real gripe after I got everything adjusted.
So that's
I
like,
felt like I was looking around it a lot.
well, you raise an interesting like design and engineering problems. Like you want a slimmer post so that your sight picture is not as obstructed.
Which I agree
What
with,
does
by
it,
the way.
right.
Yeah.
We like that.
Yeah. Target
If
archer
you
guy
have
here.
if you have a slimmer post,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Less durability,
Less durability.
of
So
course.
if you're stomping around the mountains,
I'll have 2 of them, and if I break it, I'll throw a new
So-
one.
so
I
it's
don't
like
care. I'm just kidding.
but these-
I can't aim with it. It drives me nuts.
these are the conversations that we have of like, why should we make it the way that we think we should make it? And you're trying to make concessions or design choices for the majority.
Sure,
And,
and
we're going to say, if you run a stick through your pin cartridge and you bend your whole thing and you don't have a spare, what are the odds of that happening versus people being like, if it was a little bit thinner, that would be better.
Sure.
Choose your poison.
100%. And I totally also get where you're coming from. You're talking about number of SKUs, et cetera. And it's really difficult to do that, which I totally understand because the number of different options you could provide would be a virtual nightmare. It's just big and I can't stand it.
Yeah.
Well, I think
That's totally fair.
state,
That's totally fair.
right, you can swap the cartridge out, right? And so end state, my desirable is you can buy the sight kind of how it is now with the 15, which is like best of both worlds. But then, maybe at some point we can get a little calm down here and offer more cartridge options.
Which is great. That
And
sounds
then it's like,
fantastic.
if you really, really want that, then you can buy that specific cartridge.
We'll buy 2 of them.
That
case I
to me
shove a
that
stick
makes a
through and
lot
break
more
it.
sense too. Because like there's I don't shoot a vertical 3 because I think it's virtually useless. Just saying.
Yeah,
I just don't
it's
like.
just
I
'cause
mean,
you're
that's
uneducated.
no, it's not. It's because of the same issues that you have, and then it's the fact that I set the top pin at 20, and then my second one's at 35, and then the third one's at 50. I just find for a hunting scenario, I find that useless.
I want it to look like one pin because it's so much easier to aim with and target acquisition. You don't have to think about it as much. Your sight picture is cleaner. But I want the pin directly in the middle of the housing. So center on center on center. If I'm not looking, it's just in the middle. If I'm not focusing on those things, and then I want a pin as low as humanly possible in the housing, so I'm not giving up distance. Then I want the housing to go to where it would run into my arrow. Which I'm weird. Don't build it for me.
Well, I mean, like I think that
There
you are.
are
You're
things I always check on a site.
You're a bit more of an extreme, like with especially the distance stuff.
so.
That's more of an extreme thing.
What was your first clue? I was a bit more than extreme.
I don't know, the middle-aged man with a mohawk, maybe.
Something like that.
Overall, though, like this to me makes so much sense as a newer version of that.
Oh,
so
yes.
I'm super excited to put it on and play with it a little bit more. Any other like, I don't know, Josh, did you have any other issues that you saw with this?
Yeah, and you pointed it out when I went to Mexico for my mule deer hunt, I did not take the scope head off and traveled with it, and it got shifted in the case, and the third axis moved the open position because your screw sits against it. It doesn't actually attach to it, so it pulled over. I mean, I moved it right back, but it's the first time I'd actually had a sight move and travel.
Was that the MG Matthews Genuine?
Yes. Yeah.
You can tighten those bolts down stupid hard.
Oh, okay.
So maybe you just didn't leave it. So
And in all fairness, I literally moved it back and was right back
Yeah.
in the middle, and it was fine. And then you said I was an idiot and should have just taken the scope head off, which you're right. I didn't even
break.
think about that. Just roll it
Yeah.
off and put it in the side. And
well, now I
that
see a
wouldn't be
20, a
possible.
movable
Like, that was
20
a
stop
person.
on here. That's also very nice.
Yeah, zero
nice
stop
addition.
20s.
Yep.
Mandatory in my head.
So when I was in Wyoming, we were running mules, and we'd shove the bows into a scabbard on the side of the mule, and I'd take the scope housing off. And like every time we'd go somewhere, and then I just pop it back on. It became really, really easy, second nature to just do it. And it just kind of preserved, to me, some of the more like delicate, sensitive parts of this. And I would put it, in a felt case in the bag.
And we're always making like minor inline improvements on the product too. And so one of the small things that you'll see in this versus like the old, and this was just like an inline change that we would have made anyway. But like the Gen 1, this has the grip that you can swap. And we kind of thought that would maybe be a nifty idea, but we weren't like super pumped with kind of how it felt in your hand because you could, people would maybe feel the grip maybe move back and forth on the dial and think there was backlash. There wasn't. And so what we did,
Just the rubber shifting.
Yeah, is we just completely overmolded it directly onto the big dial, and so
Nice. So there's not going to slip at all.
And
on
so
this
you
side.
know
So there's no rubber changeable
Yeah.
dial
you
ring
have
on
a
that.
very robust, high performance polymer core dual dial which is also skeletalized, but then the rubber part that you touch is just directly over molded.
Yeah.
And it has a slightly different pattern, which I just kind of like the look and feel of better. But like little tiny things like that, if we are able to do the inline changeover through manufacturing and get it out, like we do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
we don't discuss that a lot.
Right. Sure.
And that's like, I have, even before I worked here, we make hardware, but we will iterate on it as though it's software. And so if we can make unknown to the consumer improvements,
Updated improvements.
that just like, we don't do a V1.2, 1.3, it's just like, if we can make it better today, we will make it better today, and we will sell it to the same guy. And it's like, you have a better version.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't know that, but
Yeah.
Like a good example would be the indicators. I know they're already on their like 4th or 5th iteration of these things. Changes I can't even tell you visually.
Right.
Like it's the tolerances in their stack up and all that. And so just to make sure, because it was a nightmare with manufacturing and assembly, because all the different surfaces and stack ups and angles and we like stupid sharp indicators very close to the tape.
Yes.
Because
Because you're a target guy.
because I'm a target guy.
I want to know exactly what I'm pointing at.
If you have a stupid round indicator that's way far off the tape, like depending on how you're looking at it,
Yes.
it'll change like a yard or two.
It will.
Drives me crazy.
Yeah.
And so these will like poke you till you bleed.
our indicators are razor.
Bring up.
I literally
bring up,
have
bring
cut
up
myself
indicators.
taking the scope
When
off
we're done
before,
with this, bring up the indicator question because I have something I want to talk
Okay.
about, but I don't want to put it on here.
And to get it super sharp and super close to the tape, like we have to fine tune that tolerance in over many faces and parts that have tolerances. And so just to walk that in, they're already on like their 5th iteration to get that. And that's what we obsess over here.
Sure.
Is the couple thousandths of an inch that these indicators are floating over your tape.
Yeah, how close can I get it to
Yeah.
without touching the tape and still
Right.
get a tape on
Like
functionally?
we
and
were
being able to
moving
take
stuff.
the thing off to put a tape on helps because you're not trying to curl under it because that is a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
I remember before we launched the Matthews Genuine, we were making a change to the pin housing that was like less than the width of a human hair. And we sat at this table and we're like, is this worth doing? Because it will mean that there are thousands of cartridges that are no good because we've decided
Would it have been smaller?
that they're not good. And we were like,
It's totally worth it. Throw them all away.
but like we made that change and then we like, write off the ones that we don't sell because we classified that they're not good enough. There's design decisions that go into that, like by the dozens.
People would love to see the room that we call deep storage here, because there are like we have pallets now of stuff that's just like, this wasn't quite good enough to sell. It was a first iteration. We thought we were ready for production, but we weren't. It's like,
Sell it out at discount.
Yeah.
Put it on the website. Discount.
Yeah.
May not exactly work. We don't know. Just random stuff. The steak's just gigantic on some of them. I'm sure there'd be some wild stuff.
But to compliment, again, in all honesty, this is a first generation of making a site from a company that's never made a site. Now, that's happened a couple different times in my life. I mean, I've been in archery since I could walk and in the industry relatively heavily for 35 years now. There's only been a couple times a new site company came out. To have so many things correct in here out of the gate, never seen anything close. Like I've seen some that when I started making videos, there was one in particular that I wouldn't make a video on. Like I'm critical. I'm going to point things out I don't like. I'm going to point things out that I like. If I can't come up with very many things that I like, I won't make a video. There's only been a few times I haven't. Like new product comes out, I'm like, nope, you don't want me to touch it. I'm not going to do it. That site was 95% right in my head out of the gate. Impressed the shit out of me. That was so many things correct to begin with. And then the improvements and changes you made there were once again like 95% of what you could have fixed. For lack of a better phrase, you guys take things and have the idea in general of what's wrong and correct it for the most part. And you can look at that at almost everything you've made along the way. For a company that it wasn't from that space, it's incredible what you've done. When I'm being critical against everything else, not necessarily where you're from. I'm trying to judge you the same. And that site's about perfect. It's really close in my head to perfect. There's not much you could change to improve it for the most part. It's really impressive.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean,
Thank you.
from this
Right. Yeah.
to
From
that
this to that.
and in such a short period of time is really incredible. And once again, only one iteration publicly of a site pre to that. Like you can't. The majority of people would not be able to argue that's not the best site or damn near the best site made, and you're competing against people who've made sites for 10 or 20 years.
And that's the target, is we want to make the best things. And
Yes.
if if you state that as your goal, and
Yes.
you make the type of things that we make, and you market them the way that we do, and price them the way that we do,
Yeah.
you invite criticism.
Yeah.
Great. And I do not mean that like as an antagonistic viewpoint, but it is like, if you're going to operate this way and you're going to cut wind and lead pack, it's like you're going to take it on the teeth sometimes.
Sure.
And you have to be okay with that. And we are.
Well, and
because-
a percentage of that's always going to be a brand loyalist to someone else anyway. You have to
absolutely.
accept that.
Absolutely.
There's nothing you can
It's
do
like,
with
that
one.
was not our guy.
That's not your guy.
That's totally great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Your guy's
I love
got
that
a really
you love
fancy
something
watch
else.
and probably has a supercar somewhere that you don't know about. That's your guy.
It's like you can't have it both ways. If you want to
No.
if you want to sit here and design product the way that we do and tell the stories that we tell, it's like you're going to get picked on, and that's okay too. We're all right with that. We want to make great things and like keep our heads down and our eyes front and stay within our own lane.
No, you guys know the lane that you're in. You chose to be in that lane, and with your personality, to me, it makes perfect sense that this would be the lane you would exist in, because you're not going to obsess the same way over a $99, polymer.
Right.
It's got,
Obsessive perfection should never be a price point
Yeah.
thing,
And I
which
think-
is clearly how you view things.
Yeah, even outside of the product, like even how we launch it too, we try to be best in class in, where we launch it and it's available for sale, and you can get one now, not 6 months from now.
Right.
And like you're gonna drive up with your stock today.
maybe if we could fit it in the 4Runner. Yeah, we'll see.
Right? And so it's like
Right.
we when we launch a product, we do the hard work, because we know. I mean, I'm a consumer. I like products too, right? Like when something launches and I want it, I want that thing.
You don't want to wait.
You know what? So we take the risk, a big risk sometimes, and we do the hard work, diligence, and planning to when we launch something, it's ready for launch. You can buy one now, get your hands on it. Retailers are stocked because we partner with these people who are also taking risk on us because they believe in our products, our brand, and what we're doing. And it's like, we really try to do everything right. The product, the whole experience, whether their customer or the dealer experience, it's taken us longer than I thought to get the dealer experience to a level that I would like. We're continuing to work on that and improve that. I think we're getting much better at it, but launching Slider 2, I think, is a really great example of the direction we're heading in the future with the products, how we launch them, and who we work with.
and how we support them after
Yeah.
purchase too.
Yeah.
Like that. If you're we're selling these things for the prices that we're selling them for. If you have a problem, you damn for sure better be able to call and get your problem answered.
Yeah.
And so I want to just state this for the record. If you call Ultraview, it might take us a minute to get back to you because that team is probably understaffed. But the two dudes that run that are Max Dixon, who has owned Second Chance Archery for 15 years with his dad and is a bow nut, and Nolan Rasmussen, who used to work for you.
For me.
So it's like
Bastards.
I believe we called and asked your permission before we hired
You did. No, it's totally fine. Nolan's, he's good for that role.
Stud.
We're actually down here to poach a couple of your guys that are back up in Nashville. Yeah, so we didn't sign anything about that.
Yeah, fair's fair.
But the point I want to make is like we sell a premium thing and we want to support our customer till death.
Yes.
You know, and so that demands things of us, which we are constantly fighting to deliver on because we believe that that's just the right thing to do.
Yeah, love it. All
So
right.
I'm interested. How did you think I ended up here?
I thought you were a rich kid. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. No, you just
I didn't.
no. Honestly,
actually-
that is kind of what I thought. Like what I thought was that you were a rich kid that was probably from like a family that demanded great things of you.
Yeah. Like business ownership or something?
Yeah. Well, because honestly, and that I don't say that in a bad way,
No,
by the
yeah.
way.
I'm
'cause
glad you're
that's-
being honest with
that's
me.
kinda where I came from.
Yeah.
So they like I think that what I saw was, or what I thought was going to be the story of like I came from a great family that I was well supported and I had good ideas, and then basically was helped into, not like daddy's money helped me, but I was helped into starting this thing when I was very young. Because I don't care what anybody says. When you start something in college that does what it's done for you in 10 years, that's insane. Like, that's just not a thing that happens very much, because an 18-year-old person's brain does not work well enough to be able to pull this stuff off. Like, I'm a completely different person than I was when I was 18 years old. Completely. I'm assuming.
In a lot of ways, I'm very similar, but also different at that. But,
all right.
From my knowledge of it, I knew you shot as a teen or what have you, and I knew that you won the Georgia Tech thing. So I knew some of it. I didn't know where you came from originally, and hardworking parents, that kind of thing. But it logically made sense, because I knew nobody could obsess the way this was and push this company forward as fast as it has been if you weren't obsessive completely over what you're doing and somewhat of a perfectionist control freak. Which, don't know the other part of my business really, but that's what I expected. So the story you told me was very close to what I expected to hear.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself to be more of a visionary or more of an integrator?
Definitely visionary. Do you know EOS?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm definitely a visionary.
Okay.
Yeah, which sounds weird and it makes me uncomfortable, but like, you put me in the integrator box and like, I will crumble. I'm in actually both boxes right this very second for the business, and I
we
have
run
been.
EOS.
Nice.
But I have a very fantastic integrator who's going to help out very soon for me. But like, I can't do planning. Oh God, I hate planning. And so a lot of planning is required here. You can tell because I went to a machine shop 2 weeks before I needed parts. but I figured it out.
Complete visionary.
I figured it out.
But it's interesting because you still have like the engineer mind. I find rarely are visionaries. So when you find one that's blended together, they tend to be very successful because they speak two different languages.
They do. And I find a lot of my engineering buddies, I'm like, dude, you're being such an engineer right now. Just stop what you're doing and like, just don't think about it that way. Think about it this way. Like, you don't have to. Like, and so, yeah, I am able to, but I don't think I was born that way. Like, I think I had to teach myself how to do that.
Okay.
I will say George is like as visionary possibly gets. And so I think kind of the thought process was instilled, and then just learning by failure. And like, I read a lot of books to like learn things. And like, I've had to teach myself how to like pull myself up and understand like how to actually solve problems from like a high level.
Yeah, we're wrecking cameras at this point.
Yeah,
I already had to do it. I forgot to load two in the other one.
Yeah.
I don't want to roll an intro now. I'll just film something afterwards and just kind of say what we're doing, because we still got to go do B-roll and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you have any other things that you want to talk to him about? Because we're long. I also
we're long.
I know Kolby's got to go do stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't want to steal
no,
more time.
honestly, I think we really covered it. It's impressive, though. It's really impressive what you've done.
I want to state that our goal was not to come down here and just kiss your ass the whole time. Like, that's not. And I feel like people are gonna be like, "What the fuck? You guys just did what you did." But it is inarguable that you guys, in a very short period of time, have moved to the top shelf of archery products, and I appreciate what you're doing because I like spending money on archery stuff. So keep doing it. I need a $5,000 bow, by the way. Just saying.
Great. We'll sell one.
Sign you up. Sell one.
But in full transparency,
He'll prepay for it.
Yeah, you texted me on like Thursday or Friday last week, and like, can we come down? And I'm like, I've had a lot going on this weekend, so I volleyed to you, and you had a lot going on this weekend.
Yeah.
It's like literally like Sunday we planned like what time you'll be in, and today's Monday.
Yeah.
And like, you showed up, we set up, we turned on, and like, here we are.
Yeah. No, it's been good in my
scramble.
opinion. My wife is pissed at me, but other than that, it's fine. It's all good.
Yeah, eventually she's going to hate me if she doesn't already.
She does
a lot.
No, she does already. Yeah, for sure. For sure.